Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Uncle Pinocchio's Children's Tales. Get ready for amazing kids' stories with great morals and magic. I can't wait to share all my favorite tales with you. So snuggle up and get comfy. Are you ready? Let the adventure begin. Coming up next, story number 1.
What would happen if a backpack knew everything about you, even your deepest secrets? That's what Milo, a curious boy who never expected to be heard, discovered. Milo was new at school and felt invisible. His backpack was his only companion, a worn-out one, patched with colors and zippers that never got stuck. One day, when he opened his backpack, he found a note he didn't remember writing. "Today you will be brave." The handwriting wasn't his, but he felt he should believe it. Intrigued, he checked every corner. Among his notebooks, he found a small pocket he had never noticed before. When he opened it, he heard a gentle voice. "Hello, Milo," the voice whispered. "I've kept your drawings, your fears, and your dreams. I'm Machi, your backpack, and I've always been with you." Milo jumped. His backpack could talk. But more than that, it knew him. It knew he hated Mondays and that he wished for a real friend. Machi gave him a challenge. "Today you must talk to Alga, the girl who always sings alone during recess. Don't be afraid, you can do it." Though his legs were shaking, Milo accepted. He walked up to Alga while she sang about fish that dreamed of flying. "Hi, can I listen with you?" Milo asked. Alga looked at him, surprised, but smiled. "Sure, but you have to help me make up the ending." And so began a friendship made of melodies and secrets. Every day, Milo found a new note in his backpack encouraging him to be himself. Over time, Alga also received a note in her backpack. It was different, written in blue with shiny ink. "Your voice has magic. Use it." Puzzled, they decided to investigate together. Could there be more backpacks like Machi alive, with hidden messages? One afternoon, while playing in the park, they saw a boy crying. His backpack was moving slightly, as if trying to comfort him. They approached carefully. The boy's backpack let out a soft sigh, as if it needed help to speak. "Maybe," said Alga, "our backpacks are connected. Maybe they all have a story to tell, but only if someone wants to listen." The next day, they decided to gather more kids to share stories from their backpacks. Soon, the playground was filled with hidden tales. Machi seemed happy. Its zipper shone brighter than ever, and its pockets quivered as if silently applauding. Everything was going well, until a note appeared with a warning: "Don't open the red pocket. You're not ready yet." Milo, curious as always, couldn't resist. He opened the red pocket, and disappeared. Alga screamed, but it was too late. Milo woke up in a strange room, surrounded by backpacks hanging from the ceiling. They all whispered, as if sharing ancient secrets. A golden backpack approached. "You opened the pocket of forgotten memory," it said. "Only those who face their fear can leave." Milo remembered his worst day, when he moved and lost his dog. He had never spoken about it, not even to Machi. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I miss Max. It hurt a lot, and it still does." The backpacks fell silent. Then, the golden one slowly opened, revealing a drawing: Milo and Max running in the garden. It was his, he had forgotten it. Suddenly, he was back in the park. Alga hugged him tightly. "Where were you?" "In a place that keeps what we don't say," he replied. From that day on, Milo decided to speak more, sing with Alga, and help others discover what their backpacks were holding. Machi no longer left notes. It simply listened, beat like a soft heart, and knew that Milo had grown. One day, Alga found her own red pocket. She looked at it, then at Milo, and they both knew she didn't have to open it alone. The entire school started writing notes, not to hide secrets, but to share them with those who needed them. Backpacks, pencil cases, even lunchboxes, every object seemed to have something to say if one truly stopped to listen. Moral: sometimes, what hurts us the most is what teaches us the most. Speaking, sharing, and listening makes us truly brave. See you very soon with more magical stories that will take you to incredible worlds.
Coming up next, story number 2.
What would happen if one day the colors of the world decided not to get along? That's exactly what happened one morning in the small town of Paintville, where the rainbow refused to come out. In that place lived 3 very special colors: Rulo red, Azulina blue, and bright green Verdi. Each one believed they were the most important. Rulo red claimed he was passion, fire, and strength. "Without me, strawberries would be gray," he shouted as he marched through the town square. Azulina, calm and elegant, replied, "I am the sky and the sea. Without me, the world would have no depth." Verdi, full of energy, responded, "I am life. Trees, plants, and even frogs owe their color to me." The problem began when they all wanted to paint the sun with their own color. Rulo wanted it red, Azulina wanted it blue, and Verdi, bright green. The town's great brush, named Big Bristle, was caught in the middle of the argument, not knowing whom to obey. "Enough," said Big Bristle. "If you keep fighting, I'll stay still. I won't paint anything else." And so it happened. Without Big Bristle, the world lost its color. The sky turned gray. Flowers became ash. Everything seemed asleep. The children of Paintville came out of their homes with wide eyes. "Where is the rainbow?" they asked sadly. Azulina felt guilty when she saw a little girl crying beside a flowerless field. "Maybe I overreacted," she whispered. Rulo lowered his head when he saw tomatoes refusing to grow. "Maybe I did too," he murmured. Verdi looked at his reflection in a dull puddle and realized something was wrong. "None of us shines without the others," he admitted. The 3 colors gathered beside Big Bristle. "We want to fix it," they said in unison. "We miss each other." Big Bristle stretched happily. "At last. Let's paint the world again." They began with the sky, a bit of blue, a touch of red for the sunrise, and a hint of green for the leaves dancing in the wind. The flowers smiled again. The sun was painted golden, and the fields regained their 1,000 shades. But suddenly, something strange happened. From the shadows emerged a new color, gloomy gray. Gloomy gray was sad. "No one ever invites me. Everyone thinks I'm boring." Azulina gently approached. "Gray, you make our colors stand out. You're the rest in the middle of all the brightness." Rulo hugged him tightly. "You're like the clouds that announce the rain. Without you, rainbows wouldn't exist." Verdi nodded. "Besides, in your shades live wolves, elephants, and even magical stones." Gloomy Gray smiled for the first time in centuries. "Do you really think I have a place?" "Of course," they all said. "The world needs all colors, even the ones that seem sad." From that day on, in Paintville, all the colors lived in harmony, and no shade felt lesser than another. The children laughed again, houses filled with murals, and rainbows appeared even in puddles. Big Bristle no longer had to choose between them. Now it painted blends, shadows, lights, and emotions. Even gray days had their charm, because everyone knew that something beautiful would follow. Azulina, Rulo, Verdi, and Gray strolled together at sunset, proud of their new friendship. Sometimes, laughter could be heard among the colors as they danced with the wind. Moral: no color shines brighter than another, beauty lies in the blend, not in the competition. See you very soon with more magical stories that will take you to incredible worlds.
Coming up next, story number 3.
Can you imagine a place where dreaming isn't just allowed, but required by law? That was Somnopolis, the city where dreams mattered more than rules. In that city lived Plumo, a little snail with paper wings, who had to dream something different every night or be sent to the barrel of silence. His best friend was Tintina, a pink cloud that changed shape depending on her mood. She always floated near Plumo, guarding his dreams. There was also Don Zick, the dream inspector. He carried a giant magnifying glass and a notebook where he wrote down each approved or forbidden dream. In Somnopolis, children didn't go to school. They went to the dream factory, where they learned to imagine castles, dragons, or seas made of candy. Each morning, a siren didn't signal work, but the awakening of ideas. It was the most eagerly awaited moment for all the inhabitants. Plumo dreamed of spaceships that smelled like chocolate, but Don Zick said those dreams were too sweet to be legal. One day, Plumo dreamed of something he had never imagined before, a world without dreams. Everything was gray, silent, and full of broken clocks. He woke up scared and told Tintina. She shrank into the shape of a raindrop and murmured, "That's a bad dream. Something strange is happening." When Don Zick read the dream report, he turned pale as a blank page. "That kind of dream has been banned for centuries," he said. Plumo was summoned to the Palace of Imagination to testify. No one had had a bad dream since Somnopolis was founded. The Dreamers' Council, made up of a fish with a hat, a talking lamp, and a clock with no hands, decided to investigate. Worried, Tintina flew to the Hill of Sighs, where the ancient oracle lived, a rock with a wind voice that knew all about the past. The oracle whispered to her, "A true bad dream is a sign that dreams are being controlled and might soon disappear." Tintina flew back like a whirlwind. "It's not Plumo's fault. Someone is stealing the free dreams." The council, doubtful, decided to send Plumo and Tintina on a mission to find out who was behind the threat. They followed the trail of dimmed ideas to a cave as black as spilled ink, the warehouse of the never dreamed. There they found a dark figure. It was Don Zick, trapped in his own fear. He had sealed away his dreams to avoid disappointment. "I was afraid dreams would become useless," he confessed, "so I locked them away, one by one." Plumo approached without anger. A dream that's locked away stops being a dream. It's only a shadow. Tintina wept a gentle rain over Don Zick. When it touched him, the old inspector began to remember his first dream, a train flying over mountains of ice cream. The warehouse began to shake. The dream cages opened on their own. Firebirds, winged bicycles, colorful elephants, everything escaped. The city changed that day. It was no longer enough to dream. You had to share dreams so they could stay alive. Plumo was named Chief Dreamkeeper, and Tintina became the Wind Advisor. Don Zick, for his part, reopened his heart to imagination. In Somnopolis, dreaming weird was no longer punished. Bad dreams were analyzed as warnings from the soul. Each year, they celebrated the Festival of Crazy Dreams, where the wackiest one was awarded a real cotton candy cloud. Plumo dreamed of a city of floating noses. Tintina dreamed of a violin-playing sun, and everyone laughed without fear of being told it wasn't normal. Now they knew that the worst enemy of a dream wasn't the impossible, it was forgetting. The oracle whispered joyfully, "The city has awakened, and this time to keep dreaming with open eyes." From then on, no dream was ever banned again, because in Somnopolis, even the absurd had a place. Moral: never lock up your dreams out of fear they won't come true. Sometimes the craziest thing is exactly what the world needs. See you very soon with more magical stories that will take you to incredible worlds.
Coming up next, story number 4.
Have you ever met a little bear who couldn't fall asleep without a story? It wasn't out of fear, but because without stories, his world stopped shining. That little bear was named Olmo, with honey-colored fur and curious eyes that always wanted to know what came after once upon a time. Every night, Olmo sat in his little bed, with his starry blanket and a cup of warm milk, waiting for something magical to begin. But that night, his mama bear was very tired. She had worked a lot, and her eyelids just couldn't stay open. "There won't be a story tonight, little one. Just close your eyes," she whispered, giving him a kiss on the forehead. Olmo was left alone in the dark, hugging his blanket. He wasn't afraid, but the silence felt like a pathless forest. "If there's no story, I'll make one up," he said with determination. Then he looked up at the ceiling, and his thoughts began to take shape. Suddenly, from the corner of his room, a glowing figure appeared. It was Plumifero, an owl made of forgotten words. "Do you need a story?" asked Plumifero, flapping his wings as if turning the pages of an invisible book. "Yes, but I don't know how to start," said Olmo, his eyes wide open. "Every story begins with a question," said the owl. "How about this one? What if a pillow could fly?" And so Olmo imagined his pillow floating out the window, crossing clouds and chasing shooting stars. In his story, the pillow was named Suave, and her mission was to catch dreams that slipped away from distracted heads. Suave flew from house to house, gathering forgotten dreams, one of being an astronaut, another of playing the violin, yet another of flying with dragons. But then, an unexpected twist. Suave found a broken dream. It was sad, with torn edges and no color. "What happened to you?" asked Suave. The dream didn't answer, but a tear fell from one of its corners. "No one believed in me," it finally said. "Everyone said I was impossible." Suave didn't know how to fix dreams, but she did know how to warm them. She wrapped it gently and took it to a special place. The place was the Mountain of Brave Thoughts, where broken dreams could heal if someone gave them a second chance. There the dream was repaired with threads of hope and stitches of imagination. When Olmo reached that part of the story, his heart beat faster. It was him who had to believe in that dream. With a steady voice, he said, "I do believe in you." And as he did, the dream lit up and flew into the sky like a happy firefly. Plumifero clapped his soft wings and said, "You've created your first story, and a powerful one." Olmo smiled. Not only had he managed to sleep without a story, but he had discovered he could invent them himself. The next morning, Mama Bear found Olmo asleep with a smile and a pillow that seemed to have traveled far. From that day on, every night Olmo told a different story, some sad, some silly, but all born from his imagination. Plumifero came by from time to time, bringing lost ideas, and Suave proudly rested next to the real pillow. Olmo no longer needed to be told stories, but he gladly listened when others wanted to share theirs. Sometimes the forest friends would come over just to hear his nighttime adventures and fall asleep with a smile. Because Olmo had discovered that the best stories aren't in books, but in brave hearts. Morale: imagination is a light that never goes out if you dare to use it, even when you think you're alone. See you very soon with more magical stories that will take you to incredible worlds.
Coming up next, story number 5.
What if you could write to the future? And the future wrote back. In a town with no clocks or calendars, there lived a girl named Leah, who loved writing letters with no destination. She stored her messages in bottles and tossed them into the river, imagining that someone, someday, would find them and understand her heart. One cloudy afternoon, a bottle came floating back against the current. Inside was a letter written in her own handwriting. "Leah, don't be afraid of change. What's coming will be hard, but necessary," the mysterious message read. When she compared it to her own writing, there was no doubt. It was the same, but steadier, as if it came from an older version of herself. She decided to reply. She wrote a letter full of questions. Who are you? How do you know so much about me? 2 days later, another bottle appeared. I'm you. From the year 2042. You still prefer writing in blue ink. Leah felt a chill, but also a spark of curiosity. Could she really be writing to herself from the future? She began sending letters almost daily. She wrote about her days, her fears, her sick grandmother, and her dreams. The replies always came, filled with wise, sweet, and comforting words. Hug Grandma today, even if you don't know why. Thanks to those letters, Leah began to change. She grew braver, kinder, more attentive to life's little moments. One day, a letter brought a warning. Very soon, the replies will stop, but you'll be ready. Leah didn't want the connection to end. Losing the letters felt like losing a part of herself. In her final message, she wrote, "Thank you for taking care of me. I hope to become you someday." Years passed. The bottles no longer returned, but the memory of those letters remained etched in her soul. At 33, Leah returned to the same river where it had all begun, holding a new bottle in her hand. Inside was a short note. Dear past Leah, never stop imagining. Magic exists when you believe. She tossed it into the water with a smile. She wasn't expecting a reply, just closing the circle with gratitude. That night, she heard soft taps on her window. A box was tied to a balloon with a letter written in green crayon. Hi, I'm Nico. I found your bottle. Are you really from the future? It said, with crooked, honest letters. Leah sat in silence. For the first time, she was on the other side of time. She replied without revealing her age, Hi, Nico. I don't know if I'm from the future, but I know dreams can travel very far. And so began a new friendship. Nico shared his fears, his new school, how lonely he felt some nights. Leah wrote back with warmth, speaking to him the way someone had once spoken to her. In each letter, she included advice, a story, or an encouraging phrase. She didn't need to know anything more. Nico slowly began to change. His mom noticed he smiled more, talked more, and no longer feared sleeping alone. Leah felt something healing inside her too, as if helping Nico close the final circle. One day, she received a last letter. Thank you, whoever you are. I'm not afraid anymore. She closed her eyes. She didn't cry. She smiled, like someone who just finished the best chapter of a book. She felt ready to stop writing. For now, maybe one day, another letter will change someone's life. Moral: sometimes a small message full of love can change someone's destiny, even without knowing it. See you very soon with more magical stories that will take you to incredible worlds.
Coming up next, story number 6.
Can a clown be afraid of laughter? This is the story of Luno, the clown who feared the very thing he was supposed to create, joy. In a circus hidden among the mountains lived Luno, a clown with a bright red nose, a pointy hat, and a deep sadness in his chest. Every night, the audience clapped and laughed at his tricks, but Luno trembled inside each time he heard a burst of laughter. I don't want them to laugh at me, he thought, even though he knew that being a clown meant making people laugh. His only friend was Trompa, a dancing elephant with round glasses and slow but cheerful steps. Trompa noticed that Luno always hid behind the curtain before the show. Why don't you enjoy it with them? Trompa asked gently. Because every laugh reminds me of when they made fun of me at school, Luna whispered. No one in the circus knew. Everyone believed Luna was the bravest of them all. One night, a mysterious letter arrived in Luna's dressing room. It said, "True courage is showing who you are. Today, your story will change." Luna got scared. Who knew his secret? That very night, the circus was fuller than ever. Even the trees seemed to watch the show. Trompa gave him a strong hug before he went out. Tonight, don't try to be funny. Just be you. Luna took a deep breath and stepped out without his red nose or makeup. He stood in the middle of the stage, the lights shining straight into his eyes. "Hi," he said with a trembling voice. "I won't do any tricks today. I want to tell you something." The audience fell silent. Even the children stopped moving. When I was little, everyone laughed at me. I thought being a clown would change that, but I'm still afraid. A little girl in the audience stood up and shouted, "I get scared too sometimes." Then a boy said, "Me too. But it's okay." A wave of voices rose, all saying, "Me too." Luna smiled, truly smiled, for the first time. And so did the audience. They laughed not because of jokes, but because they understood that everyone has fears. That night, Luna didn't run off the stage. He stayed, dancing with Trompa, while the laughter no longer hurt but wrapped around him like a hug. At the end of the show, the audience didn't just clap, they gave a standing ovation. Someone left a paper flower in his dressing room with a note, "Thank you for being real." Since then, Luna is still a clown, but now he tells stories from the heart. He no longer needs to hide behind a fake laugh. Moral: being brave isn't hiding your fears, but sharing them with those around you.
Coming up next, story number 7.
Can a fox be incapable of lying? In the Ink Shadow Forest lived one who, unlike the rest of his kind, only told the truth, even when he shouldn't. His name was Zernio, and though he was kind, the other animals avoided him because his honest words sometimes hurt more than a lion's roar. "That hat looks odd on you," he would say to the mole, without any malice. "Your pie is burnt," he would tell the owl cook. He didn't mean harm. It was simply his nature. One day, a weasel named Milka arrived in the forest. She wore sequins and claimed to come from a circus of 1,000 mirrors. Milka spoke with flair, but lied constantly. She said she had tamed dragons, danced on the moon, and had breakfast with the king of the blue forest. The animals were enchanted. Milka told such fascinating stories that no one wanted to listen to Zernio, the quiet, truthful fox. Zernio tried to warn them that many of those stories couldn't possibly be true, but they ignored him, tired of his unfiltered truth. One afternoon, Milka announced she would make a star appear in the middle of the forest. Everyone gathered to see the show. With glittery dust and magical words, she waved a cardboard wand. "Let the star descend," she shouted. But nothing happened. The animals murmured in confusion. "Maybe she got the spell wrong," said the squirrel. "She probably just needs more time," added the raccoon. Nervously, Milka said the sun was too bright, hiding the star. "Tomorrow it'll work," she promised. Zernio calmly stepped forward. "There's no real spell in that wand," he said. "It's just cardboard and glitter." Annoyed, Milka replied, "So what if it is? They prefer my pretty lies over your boring truths." The animals hesitated. Was it better to live enchanted by an illusion, or face the truth, even if it hurt? That night, a little opossum cried. She had given her favorite scarf to Milka in exchange for a false story. Zernio comforted her. "You're not alone. Truth may hurt, but can also heal." The next day, Milka tried to vanish into the mist, but the animals found her beside her card of empty tales. "Why did you lie?" asked the owl. Milka looked down. "Because no one listened when I told the truth." In an unexpected gesture, Zernio offered his help. "We can tell stories together. You have imagination. I have honest words." Milka hesitated, but accepted. For the first time, someone wasn't judging her. They were inviting her to change. Together, they began to tell tales where fantasy and truth walked hand in hand, like sisters who never fight. The squirrel built a stage between the trees. The raccoon made lights with fireflies. The opossum played leaves like violins. Ink Shadow Forest was filled with magic once more, but a truer kind, where lies were no longer needed to dream. Zernio learned that speaking truth with gentleness was better than doing it harshly. Milka discovered her voice could be valuable without pretending. Each night, the forest gathered to hear a story. Some made them laugh, others made them think. All left something in their hearts. One story told of a fish who wanted to fly, another of a cloud afraid to rain, and none needed to be lies to move them. Zernio was no longer the fox everyone avoided. Now he was the forest sage, and Milka, the spark that ignited imagination. Sometimes they argued, sometimes they got things wrong, but they always listened to each other, and that, deep down, was what mattered most. The animals no longer feared the truth. They awaited it with curiosity, like someone opening a gift without knowing what's inside. One night, the opossum asked, "What if one day you stop telling stories?" Zernio replied, "Then it will be time to live one." Moral: truth can hurt, but can also bring us together, when spoken with respect and heard with an open heart. See you very soon with more magical tales that will take you to incredible worlds.
Coming up next, story number 8.
Can you imagine a world where no one could say no? That's what happened in the Valley of Yes, a place where that word simply disappeared. There lived Nuno, a curious boy with round glasses and a mind full of questions. He always wanted to know why, how, and what for. There was also Tula, a speedy turtle, quite rare for her kind. She loved to run but hated being forced to carry heavy things. And then there was Grandpa Zazu, a clockmaker who spoke in rhymes. He would say, "Yes, without measure shortens life's treasure." One day, when everyone woke up, they noticed something strange. When they tried to say no, their mouths went silent. Kids couldn't reject broccoli, cats couldn't refuse baths, and grandparents couldn't avoid jumping on trampolines. At first, it seemed fun. Everyone said yes to everything: candy for breakfast, roller shoes in class, and dogs on the swings. Nuno asked for 3 ice creams for breakfast, and got them. Then 5, and no one could refuse. He ate until his stomach hurt. Tula, exhausted, wanted to rest, but everyone kept putting things on her shell. She couldn't complain, only sigh. Grandpa Zazu tried to warn, "Without the no to slow the show, yes becomes a clown, you know." But no one could tell him he was wrong. A wave of chaos swept the valley. Trees agreed to be cut down, fish said yes to air, and clocks started ticking backwards. Nuno realized something was wrong. He wanted to say, "No more ice cream," but his voice only said, "Yes, yes, yes." Tula collapsed under a tower of backpacks. If only someone could say no, she thought, as a feather landed on her nose. Nuno had an idea. He remembered an old book Grandpa used to read to him, one about yes and no, balanced siblings. He ran to Grandpa Zazu's house and rummaged through the shelves until he found it. The book trembled as it opened. Its pages read, "To bring back the no, you must refuse without voice, from the heart." Nuno read it 3 times. He stood in front of the mirror, closed his eyes, and thought hard, "I don't want more sweets. I don't want meaningless yeses." The glass fogged up, and a word appeared written in mist. No. For the first time in days, the valley felt a change. Nuno went to Tula. They looked at each other and, without speaking, shook their heads. And then, the backpack tower fell on its own. They went house to house, inviting everyone to say no without words. Cross arms, close eyes, shake heads. The no returned without a sound. The sun shone more golden that afternoon. The wind seemed to applaud the wisdom of the children who had learned to set boundaries. The clocks resumed their rhythm. The fish returned to the water, and the trees breathed a sigh of relief under the moonlight. Tula ran for joy, unburdened. Nuno asked questions again, but now he accepted answers that weren't always yes. Grandpa Zazu danced in a circle and said, "A yes with no knot is a thread that's shot." Today, the valley found its shield, a lot. From then on, whenever someone had doubts, they remembered that saying no wasn't bad. It was necessary for balance. The Valley of Yes became the Valley of Balance. Decisions were heard, respected, and sometimes denied. They learned that no is also a way to care, to choose, and to say something isn't right. Adults began using the word with love again. So did the children. And the world didn't break. It became fairer. Nuno grew up to be a great thinker. Tula became a marathon runner. And Grandpa, well, now he teaches rhymes about decisions. They say if you pass through the valley and say no from the heart, the wind answers with a soft, sincere thank you. Moral: saying no isn't rejection, it's self-care. Knowing when to use it is an act of self-love and respect for others. See you very soon with more magical stories that will take you to incredible worlds.
And that brings our journey through these magical tales to a gentle close. Each story whispered a little lesson, sparked a smile, or warmed a heart. Thank you for sharing these moments of wonder with Uncle Pinocchio. Until our next adventure, keep dreaming, keep imagining, and never stop believing in magic.